Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Jordan and it has been a while. It's actually been about 6 months since I last uploaded a video to BookTube, but that was not a planned hiatus. Obviously, my last few videos were not indicating in any way that I was gonna stop making videos. Life just kind of happened. So I wanted to come back today with just a fresh video explaining where I've been, what I've been up to, what I've been reading, because although I haven't been making videos, I have been reading a lot of books still in the last 6 months. So I'll talk a little bit about that and then we'll get back onto a regular schedule. So to start, where did I go? What happened? A couple things happened in life that just made me really busy, and BookTube just had to be the thing that I dropped, and that was lowest priority, and that just, you know, wasn't important enough to make me neglect other things in my life. So the biggest thing being I got pregnant. So for those who don't know, who are either new here or it's been so long you forget, I do have one child already. I have a daughter. She's 1 and her name is Krissa, and I am now expecting my second child in June. So about 6 months ago, I found out, you know, we were pregnant, and with that comes a lot of fatigue and just other things that make it really hard to do things on top of, you know, all the other daily responsibilities. And I will say that being pregnant with a 1-year-old has been way harder than being pregnant the first time, obviously. So it's just been definitely a big adjustment with that. Other than that, last fall, I also started a new job, which has been very demanding, and I'm really liking it, but there was a huge learning curve. I had to travel out of state to do training for a couple weeks, and then the holiday season was very busy, and so now I finally feel like I am in a good place with that. I have that under control, and you know, my evenings and weekends are now freeing back up to be able to do things for myself again, so that's really nice. And then, you know, it was winter during a pandemic, which was not really a fun time for anyone, I don't think. I definitely wasn't feeling inspired to create content. You know, I was just trying to concentrate on myself and my family and my relationships that I have in my life and stay as in a good place as I possibly could. So all of that being said, I am now back, and I really missed making videos. I love the creativity of it. I love having somewhere to share opinions about books that I'm reading. When I do read so many books, it's nice to at least be able to share some thoughts on it. Even if it's a book I didn't like, I can maybe advise some people not to read it. Or if it's a book I love sharing that with other people and trying to convince other people to read it and all of that stuff. So I'm back. I'm planning on 1 video a week, if you're wondering. And if it's already crossed your mind, yes, I am having a baby in June, which of course will rock my world, and I'm definitely gonna have to adjust to that, but we'll take that when it comes. That's still a few months away, so until then I'm gonna focus on creating the content that I like to create and consuming more content that I like to consume. So with that, I hope you guys are ready for some more Sorry Booked Solid content. And otherwise, because I don't just want this to be a 3-minute video about nothing, I thought I would come on and share my top 10 books of 2020, because I never did get to create those end of the year videos with my favorites and least favorites and all of those kind of staples. I thought I'd share them here in case you're curious how I wrapped up the year and what my favorites were. So last year I actually read 144 books, which is the most I've ever read in a year. I'm super happy with that. I don't know if I'll ever read that many again, but then again, I've already read 25 books so far this year, and it's not even the end of March, so who knows. But I also read some really excellent books. So to start, let's do my top 10. Number 10 is The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas, and I read this last summer as a part of the reading rush. It was one of those books that I was kind of embarrassed to had not read yet, because everybody's read it, everybody loves it, and for obviously good reason. It is an incredible book. At the time that I read it, the United States and the world was in a really bad place with the Black Lives Matter movement and all the police brutality that was happening, and it's crazy that when I was reading this book, which was written in 2018, it was so applicable to 2020, and it was impactful, and I watched the movie and I cried during the movie, and just if you haven't read this book yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. I can't recommend it highly enough. The number 9 book in a similar vein is So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Oluo, and this is a nonfiction book about race and being an anti-racist and how white people can act as allies, and some history about what Black people have gone through for centuries. It's the only nonfiction I have on this list. It's not the only nonfiction I read on this topic last year, but I think it was very palatable and understandable for me, but also incredibly truthful and raw. And I also had the opportunity to listen to the author speak at an event last year. I think that also just really helped me connect with, her message and her style of reading and speaking, and all of those things came together to just make this really kind of the perfect book for me. It's also not the last book I'll read on it. I don't think that once I've read this book, I know everything there is to know. Definitely not. But I plan to reread this book several times again in the future just because of how informational and impactful and important it was. Number 8 is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. Another book that I had on my list and had on my shelf for a while. Finally got around to it last year and I loved it. It is not the typical book that I would read. It's a historical fiction with a little bit of a mystery element, and it follows this girl who lives in a marsh, basically on her own, living off the land, fending for herself, and she really loves and appreciates nature. And that's what I've kind of said about this book, is that I'm a very indoorsy person, but somehow this book made me appreciate nature. And I think that's really cool and a testament to the author's writing abilities. And I actually could have done without the mystery element, which is saying a lot because I'm a mystery thriller lover. I thought it was good enough on its own, but it was still a 5-star book. And again, if this is one that you've had on your shelves for a while, you're not sure, I would definitely pick it up, and I would say to give it a little while, give it until like halfway through the book. If you start it and think, whoa, no, this is not for me, I can't understand it, it does get better, I would say, until the halfway point, and then at halfway, if you're not enjoying it, you probably won't like the rest of it, because then by that point it is what it is. But for me, it was excellent. Number 7, With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. Last year I read all of Elizabeth Acevedo's books, and this was by far my favorite. It's a YA contemporary, again, not a genre I usually love, but there was something about this one. The main character was so mature that I didn't feel like I was reading about a high schooler. It was actually about a high school girl who has a daughter, and again, as someone who has a daughter, I think I really related to that aspect of it. And then just the book, the story in general, is really fun and beautiful, and Elizabeth Acevedo is really talented, so I'm really glad that I got to this one and connected to it so much this year, or last year. Number 6 and number 5 are actually both books by Colleen Hoover. So number 6 I put It Ends With Us, and number 5 I put All Your Perfects. So these are both adult contemporary romances, and what Colleen Hoover does, especially with her more recent books, is she writes really emotional romances, and I love them. Both of these just hit me. I think I teared up for both of them. They both deal with very serious issues, and they deal with adults who are navigating relationships. And usually I don't like romances that are light and fluffy and either YA or with adults who don't have a lot at stake or who aren't dealing with, really difficult issues. These both do that. So I really loved them. I'm a huge Colleen Hoover fan, so I will probably read every book that she puts out from now on, and I am working through her backlist still. So, and then we get into a little bit of a thriller stretch. So number 4, I have Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. This is a thriller, mystery thriller that is impossible to predict, and I love that. I love twists in thrillers. I especially love last second twists when it's something on like the last page that you read and blows your mind. This does that, and I don't even think that's spoiling that it has a twist at the very end, because again, there's no way that you would guess where this book goes. So I loved it so much. Very polarizing. A lot of people either love it or they hate it. I just happen to love it. No, I have not watched the series yet. I don't know if I will. There's something weird in me that I don't really like series adaptations. Movie adaptations I can do, and I will usually watch them if it's a book I've loved, but for some reason there's some disconnect between me and series, so I think I have to see some more reviews come out about that show before I try it. But the book was in my mind, amazing. Number 3, I have Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, another mystery thriller. I'm sure if you're connected in the book community, you know Riley Sager, you know that this book came out last year, you know that for the most part it was very hyped. I think it lived up to the hype. I loved the haunted house elements of it, and I thought the reveals and twists were satisfying to me, and so that's really all I'm looking for in a thriller, so I thought that did it, and I really, really liked it. I thought it had scary enough elements that I felt almost scared. There were some points of the book where, you know, I felt creeped out, like my heart was racing a little bit. I was reading it with some friends, so I was messaging the friends and being like, I can't believe this happened, or I don't know what's gonna happen after this, or like I would be totally out if this happened to me. Scary situations. So if you like thrillers that kind of freak you out a little bit, I mean, obviously if you're reading a book, I've never read a book that I'm actually scared to continue, but this book did give me like the creeped out feelings that I like. Number 2, the last thriller, actually the highest rated thriller, is What Lies Between Us by John Mars, and I haven't seen that much buzz about this book, but I thought it was a great thriller. I have obviously seen a lot of hype around John Mars in general. He has a lot of books that are like kind of thrillers but also have science fiction type elements. This one is straight up a thriller. It has multiple twists along the way, which again I love, and I never knew where it was going. I don't know, I totally loved it, and I very much need to read more from John Mars because I have not read any of his other books, and I know at least one of those is getting adapted too, so I do need to get on that. And then my last book, my number 1 favorite book of all of 2020, is Slay by Brittany Morris. And this is a YA contemporary book. I've talked about it lots of times on my channel, so if you were following me last year, I'm sure you heard about it, but it's a YA science fiction book following this girl in high school who has created and runs her own online virtual reality video game. I loved everything about it. I loved the video game aspect. I really love science fiction and video game type books anyway, and I loved that this was a teenage girl who does it and is representing, you know, women in STEM, specifically women of color in STEM. I love that Brittany Morris is a video game developer, or was a video game developer, so it seemed really authentic and believable. I just loved it. So if you take any recommendation from this video, if you like science fiction even a little bit, please pick up Slay. And I'm so excited because Brittany Morris does have one book coming out in 2021, and I think already a book slated to come out in 2022, so I will be following her very closely in the future. So I think that's all I wanted to talk about. What I've been reading so far this year, I think I'm gonna do a Q1 wrap up at the end of March. So I won't talk about necessarily every single book that I've read so far in 2021, but I'll talk about my favorites and any that are notable for you guys. But other than that, I'm so excited to be back, and thank you for watching this video, and I hope you're ready for more coming in the future. So I will see you in my next one.